Welcome to Inside Abode, ladies and gentlemen. How are y'all doing? I'm your host, Dave Jones. We have another dope episode for you today. We're in season 10. It's lit. We got all kinds of stuff happening. We're going into Q4. Actually, this is the last month of Q3, and we're going into Q4. But before I get into my guests, I want to ask you, or actually just consider to subscribe. It's free. It don't cost you anything. We're trying to bring community members. We're trying to bring some knowledge. We're just talking real estate. We're talking community. We're talking all those things. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button, hit follow. And if you're on Spotify, the video is on Spotify. Apple, I don't know what y'all doing. Y'all tripping, but like the Apple Podcast app ain't where it's at. But on Spotify, if you're on there, you can watch the video too as well. So let me talk about my guest. Let's get into today's topic. We're going to talk about my guest. We have a special guest today. She's from Chicago, the South Side of Chicago. She's from the South Side of Chicago. She's from the Ohio State University and has a master's from the. I had to make sure I put the. Has a master's from Seattle University. Has a background in education, community organizing, and leading nonprofits. She's the CEO of her own consulting firm, Rise Leadership with Purpose. And she's also the founder and president of Tacoma Black Fund. If that's not enough for you, she's also a mom. She's also a friend. She's also a mentor. She's also a community leader and activist and all of these things. Desiree Wilkins-Finch, how are you doing today?
I am wonderful. Can you call me every day and tell me how great I am? I was like, is that me?
Yeah. Some people need to hear it though. Like sometimes you just be doing stuff and then you don't realize how much you do.
Mm-hmm. And I thought about all the stuff you left off. No, I'm just joking.
Hey, that's why I was like, I'm trying to act like I know I probably did. So how you doing? Like you just had a birthday. Like what's going on in the life?
I did. I'm well. I am in a space of gratitude and this idea of humility. Recognizing that which is greater than you, which sometimes mean you got to pop your collar, you know, because if we were made in the image of something that was greater than us, I call it God. You call it whatever you want, but I call it God. I should pop my collar a little bit more. So I'm just in this space of gratitude.
Yeah, you got to, like Kendrick said, sometimes you got to pop out and show Agans. Like this, that's just what it is. You got to pop out sometimes.
Sometimes
it's okay.
You do.
It's okay. This is what I talk about actually a lot here. We have our little Wednesdays. We call it Fight Club. And really I like to talk about, like, if you're not affirming yourself, like your self-talk has to be stronger than the outside world's talk about you or whatever. Like, if you can't affirm yourself, then who is? Like, so you got to be the one to pop the most to yourself.
That's true.
And we have a hard time writing that down. Like, I am a great this or I am this. Like, what you are. Affirm yourself.
Yeah,
live in that.
And you know what's so funny is like I know that, right? Like I get it, but I don't live it out. And our children, they don't necessarily just do what we say; they do what they see. And so I see my son not being good to himself. So every day he gets out the car in the morning, I say, "Be good to yourself. Be good to yourself." But I'm not good to myself. I need to pop my collar a little bit more.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Celebrate yourself. Yeah. Celebrate yourself. Pop out. You gotta pop out. So we have limited time here, and I want to make sure that we get enough because we have you here. You're a hard person to get down because of all the things that you're doing. You're very busy. Why did you feel the need to start your own consulting firm, Rise, like Leadership with Purpose? What's behind that?
Yeah. So the truth is. I was trying to get out of a marriage. That's the truth. I needed some money to get out of a marriage. But no, my background is I'm over 40, so I'm having a little hot flash here. So the truth is that I actually started out I played the flute. So I started out as a musician, and that just wasn't a space of belonging for me. Very white European dominated world because I played classical music. I always say it wasn't like Lizzo, it was more like Damari McGill, who ironically was, when I moved out here, was the principal flute for Seattle Symphony Orchestra. So anyway, Then I shifted into actually real estate for a little bit, but I shifted into organizing and kind of found my place there. And then, just with marriage and having children and all of that, and wanting a different path, I became a therapist. I went to school and got my master's at Seattle University to become a therapist. And all of that funkiness together, and then my energy, didn't make me a good candidate, right? Like, I would be in interviews. I'll never forget, I was in this one interview. Ooh, I want to say the name of the company so bad, just to drag them, but I'm not going to do it. And the guy was the husband to a friend of mine. And in the interview, this is a white dude, he said to me, I think you need to go back to school and get another degree or some certificates specifically in organizational development. And I was like, well, that's odd, because your degree is in theology. So why do I have to go get 2 or 3 more degrees to do the same job you're doing? It just didn't make sense to me. And so I got a lot of that type of pushback. And I had ran our mayor's first campaign, Victoria Woodard's, Mayor Woodard's first campaign. Okay. And one of the ladies on the campaign who ran the communications part of the team was like, I think you need to consult. Like, you just have this energy that just can't really be quite contained. You're visionary. You just need to consult, and I'll give you your first client. And I did. I went. I got my business license, and when I tell you I was broke, I didn't even have $250 to get the business license. I went to Pat and Annie of Coleman and Associates, Annie Jones Barnes and Patricia Coleman. They were my mentors and friends, pastors, aunties, that's what I call them. And I said, this is what I'm trying to do, and this is my plan. It was like saving $20 here, saving $25 there. And they said, that's crazy as hell. They said, we believe in you, we see you, and they gave me a check. It was either a check or a gift card. They hooked the sister up a couple times. But, but I think this first one was a check for like $500, and they said, don't just get your business license. Go get you something to eat. Go get your hair done, get you a massage, put some gas in your car, and get your business license. And so here we are 10 years later.
Dang, that's dope. That's really dope. That's really dope. See, that's crazy that they could change the trajectory of, like, the one thing that I was thinking about as you were talking about all of that is the two things that interest me is the consulting piece, and then you said that you had background in therapy, like as a therapist. Do you, and this isn't a question on the thing, but do you how often do you draw on that experience and that education that you have? Because I gotta imagine that helps a lot in your line of work, like the therapist background.
Yeah, my degree is specifically in relationship therapy, almost like with a spiritual essence to it. So if folks wanted to talk about any form of spirituality, I can. I use it every day, all day, because, as an organizer, even I used to be a retail manager too. I've managed tons of big box stores, $7 and $11 million stores, $32 million stores. And I was always the only or one of few Black people in leadership. And even as an organizer, if I disagree, this happened the other day in a meeting I was facilitating and I got triggered. If I disagree with something, specifically cisgender white men, we'll just say white men. If I disagree, it was, oh, you must not understand. And so, things like that, and being called the angry Black woman, I would own those narratives. And then one day I was like, I'm not really angry about anything. I think I'm actually quite kind of pleasant, kind of fun to be around. And I started to explore with the truth of who I was. And it was because of that master's program that I got because, it takes, you need it to sit and pontificate and ideate and think about your life. You need time, and that's a privilege. And so I was able to do that while I worked on my master's, and I use it in my marriage. I use it with clients. I use it with friends, because I had to learn that there's the truth of who I am, right? Like we were talking about earlier. I'm a straight up introvert.
Yeah. See, and I would have not painted you as that.
And people don't. I was in my bed for 3 days this weekend. And I told you I only got out to parent. And I took them to round one and pizza, and then I got back into bed. Because my mom is out of town. But anyway.
That sounds so good.
I had to learn the truth of who I was, but also understand how people experience me. So then the next phase was not make myself small so that people, mostly white people, felt safe and comfortable. I'm not responsible for white folks' safety. Right. And so it brought me to this world where people always say, I say the hard things, but I use joy and laughter and kindness and all of that. And that's because of the work that I did on my master's program and that's the theory of change that I use as a consultant is examine, explore, and transform. People need the space to examine shit and then the freedom to explore. What are some other, can I cuss on here? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. We all grown adults. If 45 can come out here talking like you do and sit in the president's seat, I feel like all bets are off after that.
I know that's right. But people need the space to examine and then the safety to explore, right? Like it can be uncomfortable to explore a different way of thinking. And so I journey with people through examine, explore, and then in community together we find the strength to transform. So I use it all the time.
Yeah, and you're using that with Tacoma Black Fund. So tell us about the mission of Tacoma Black Fund, because that seems to fall in line with exactly what you were just talking about.
Yeah, I think as a Black leader in this community, and I've talked to several people who feel this way, we all kind of felt like if you took these steps, right, like then you could have access, right? Like you could not just access just for the sake of access, but access so that you could build and you could vision and you could help grow, the vision of a city that we all love. And I just kept finding like myself bumping up against, like, I'll call them glass doors. And so I started sitting on boards of different organizations, just trying to find my footing and try to find a sense of belonging so that I could lead in the way that I wanted to kind of lead and show up. I didn't want to be performative. I didn't want to code switch. I just wanted to just be with all of my funkiness and all of my quirkiness as a nuanced Negro. I just wanted to be. And so one of the boards I joined was Southside 100. And it was 100, at the time it was Southside 100 women. It was 100 very well-meaning, lovable white women, mostly white women. It's like 95% white women. And they have a 100 by 100 milo. They all give $100 4 times a quarter. Then they have these over wine and cheese, these events 4 times a year. You could come in and you could pitch your organization or your project, and you could win $10,000. But I noticed the thing that when Black folks came in, they were winning. And so I love it, but it just wasn't clicking for me. It didn't feel I didn't feel a sense of belonging, and so I talked to some friends about the idea of creating that same model for Black folks, for Black programs, where anyone could give as long as it was a direct impact to Black folks. Only Black people could vote, and here we are, 8 months in, raised about $50,000, given out about $40,000. The first gift, $8,700. To Vision Step Team, Chelsea McElroy, $10,000 to OBK Winery, one of 2 Black wineries in the state.
Hold on a minute. So hold on. Let me go ahead and go start me a business. I'm trying to see what's shoot.
Well, Dave, you could say, you know what, Desiree, I want to teach Black realtors how to better close the deal, and you could come and present and win $10,000 to teach Black realtors how to better close deals. I mean, I don't know, but it supports Black visionaries, Black entrepreneurs, Black programs. It just has to anybody can come and present, but it has to directly benefit Black people, and only Black people get to vote on it.
No, that's dope. The funny thing is I just had a conversation this weekend. We were talking about what we do. Well, yeah, I went out to lunch with someone, and I'm going to send them this podcast like right away. And they might already know about it, but maybe not. You just never know, because we were talking about funding for his next venture. And I was like, all right, cool. So here we are.
Yeah, please send it. I mean, it's been
Yeah.
amazing because by trade, I'm not a philanthropist. I can remember, I said this on the podcast with Day with Trey, that I would get turned away from jobs because I didn't have direct fundraising experience, and I'm like, because it was never part of my job description. Like,
Same. I'm not in the roles. I just said that in a meeting the other day. We were talking about like fundraising and stuff. I was like, I'm not from this world, so I don't know the numbers. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I do know how to talk about it, and I'm not afraid to talk about money. I just don't know the parameters here. Like, what are we working with? I don't know.
And I feel like that can be taught, right? Like, I'm a storyteller, I'm engaging, I'm relational. It seems like, they probably made the wrong choice. But no, I'm just saying. No, I'm grateful because I get to do it the way I want to do it, which is the way I believe community wants to be heard. So.
No, that's dope. Shout out to the 100. You said 100 women, South Sound, 100 women. Or
South
something like
Sound. They're now called South Sound 100.
Yeah, that's a dope concept though, and I like the fact that this was born out of something that's already there. But like, seeing the need, I think is really important because, yeah, I mean, I think that there's specific nuances and needs for the black community, especially in Washington, where there's the black population is small, it's tiny. So, you know, it's a lot that we have to navigate. So, I appreciate
Small and still vibrant, right? And I've
yeah.
always said this, is I really believe Tacoma could be like the black Mecca of the Pacific Northwest. Because when you think about it, after you leave, Houston, Dallas, what else is there?
Right.
On this side of Vegas? What?
Oakland, I mean the Bay Area. You got.
I guess
that's
Oakland.
Diverse. That's diverse though. Like, I mean, there's a lot. There's all kinds of everything.
But Tacoma could really be the black Mecca of the PNW. It really could be.
Yeah, it really could. And I think that's. Yeah, I see a lot of value, and I see you on the vision of the Black Tacoma, the Tacoma Black Fund. And just really proud that it exists. And I think hopefully with what you're doing, like the podcast you were just on, or even this podcast, hopefully it allows people to see that this exists, because I know there's a lot of people out there that are looking for funds. And I feel like, and this can lead me, before my laptop dies, I gotta get it plugged in.
No, you're good.
I feel like leading into this next election cycle, for example, I feel like there's going to be more funds available in the future for more things like this, and so I'm really hopeful in that regard. But
can I share one thing
about
so one thing that the Black Fund is doing, we are trying to prepare for an annual event the first week, I believe, of December. So we're looking for sponsors for that. 100 tables, $150. 10 tables, that's it, just 100 folks. But one of the great things that we did, is that we partner with GTCF, Greater Tacoma Community Foundation, to help manage the fund and distribute funds. So, because I didn't want to deal with money. I just wanted to collect it and then have somebody else count it and hand it out. But through that, we have a partnership with them where they gave us 55 hours of capacity building time with CPAN. And so in conversation with CPAN and just being out here in the community, I got thrusted into this world of like venture capital, angel networks, donor advised funds. It's been insane. There's so much money out here for Black creatives, especially in the world of tech. But one of the things that I landed on was the idea of Tacoma Black Fund not just being a 501c3, but having a 501c3 with a 501c4 arm. So we're in the process, Dave, of establishing a Black PAC in the state of Washington to cover South Sound, South Puget Sound. So that'll be like King, Pierce, Thurston, and Kitsap counties, I believe.
That's huge.
It's so huge. My first meeting this morning was kind of finalizing who are the Black candidates that are running in this general election and how much we can raise for them. It's not a ton of money, but it puts us in the trajectory to put cash money in the hands of elected candidates and elected officials in this community, so that there is a place where we can build and have vision for what Black politics can look like in this community for 10, 15 years down the line, when we know people are retiring, we know people are moving around. And this is not to say, hear me when I say this is not to say that other entities aren't doing it. It's to say that TBF is now going to be a part of that conversation as well. And so we have
that's dope.
An amazing team that's putting together a Black PAC in the state, and the hope after this PAC is to create a super PAC, so that we can do some raise some money for Kamala.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a great segue into my next question. So let me get into this first question. How do you, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but how do you go about identifying Black entrepreneurs? Is there like a meeting they come to? They have to share a success story. They like how does like say someone is listening, like, yo, I'm excited. I want to see how do I tap in? How do you identify?
Yeah, so it's quite simple, and I intentionally kept the criteria and the process very basic. The only criteria we have is because the IRS has designations that we have to, have. So it has to be, it can be for a nonprofit, business leader, entrepreneur, whatever, but if it's a business owner, it has to be for a charitable intent. And so if you just email me at Tacoma Black Fund at gmail.com, that's literally the process. Let me know what your idea is. Let me know what your business is. And if there's space, you are welcome. We only have 4 of these a year. So space is very, very limited. So it's really a matter of first come, first serve. Okay, that makes sense. Because, I mean, I know someone's listening right now and like, yo, how do I get in touch? So tap in with the email that you just shared. Yeah, Tacoma Black Fund at Gmail.
Tacoma Black Fund at Gmail. We'll put that in the comments as well down there. So that leads me to my next question. You kind of segued to it almost a little bit. Obviously, Vice President Harris is on her journey to candidacy for presidency. And you've already talked about earlier in our conversation about some of your challenges that you've had to navigate as a Black woman, like in some of these rooms. And we all have work to do. That just because I can talk about don't mean I don't have my own work to do in this regard as well. You know what I mean? Like, I think that there's layers and nuance to this. It's not just black and white. You know what I mean? And but what is the significance as her running? Now I understand that there's this whole conversation about race and all that stuff about her race, and they're using code switching now against just like woke and DEI, and they have a way to turn something that's positive or something that we have to do, that we understand, code switching, into a negative connotation at her race and how she identifies. And I just find this so fascinating because it happens over and over, and it's higher level thinking, but like, how does her plight in what we're experiencing right now, watching in this election cycle, what significance does that hold for Black women in professional spaces in America, do you think? Does it have significance, or is it just kind of like a thing, or I don't know? No, I have
50 things going through my head at one time. I would say first off, representation matters, right? It's something about seeing a Black woman on a platform leading that is so impactful and so empowering. It's almost liberating, right? Now here's some of the nuance of it, right? Like her proximity to whiteness, right? Ouch. Her history as a prosecutor, ouch, right? But so I wish I could find this link and send it to you. I was watching this panel of CEOs and professionals talk, and they were saying, this one guy was saying, I am so sick of having to be perfect to get a job. I am so sick of having to check all the boxes to get a job when we've all worked under very, very mediocre white leadership, right? Like, the conversation is never about just making sure that Black folks have access. We have to be 10 times as great, 10 times as strong, 10 times as fast, and then they wonder why we're excellent. right? And it's like, because I have no choice. If I'm going to compete, I have to be the fastest in the world, right? Like, I can't come in number 2. And I will never forget, as an organizer, this brother, Shaba Andrich, came to me because I was so angry because I was doing great. And then one day I was just tired. The rest of the team wasn't doing as great. And so I kind of half-assed it. And he went off on me, and I was pissed. And he took me outside, and he said, you always got to set the bar. You always got to set the standard. And so I'm holding all of these things, and I'm also holding But When Black Women Lead, right? Like, and the beautiful thing about Tacoma Black Fund, and I said this early on, is that TBF is not the space for us to debate blackness. It's not the space for us to say who is black and who ain't black enough and who is black. Like, I can't even contain it, right? Because even being from the Southside of Chicago, growing up in Roseland on 118th in Michigan, in front of a bus stop, I saw my first murder when I was 12. I heard a prostitute almost get killed when I was 14, in my doorway. Like, people would still tell me I'm not black enough because I played the flute or because I sound white.
Yep. And that's what I was going to say. I've been dealing with that my whole life, even now, to this day.
And then in white spaces, we too black and we scary and we're too boisterous. And it's all of the things. I heard a sister say once, she was a black woman raised by her white family because she's mixed. And she said, in the world of DEI, nobody cares about how white men feel. I just care about how they feel. And when I share that story, people get so pissed, like, nah, yes, she can say that. Oh my God, ouch. But both can be true.
Right.
That is her narrative as a black woman.
Right.
That is her lived experience as a black woman. Mine is different, but her experiences have shaped her perspective for her to think that way. We can't take away blackness from her because she thinks that way. What we have to do is be in relationship with her, because she hasn't been in relationship. She needs relationship and safety, and you don't have to do that if you don't want to. But I made the choice to do it.
You cooking right now. So, because I talked about the nuance, and I spoke to that because, like, how I have work to do as well, and I feel like you just kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, everyone's experience is different, and everyone's black experience is different, specifically, and it's hard to quantify that just based off of skin color. But white supremacists will question that and then make us question each other, which I feel like is a tactic, overall tactic. And I'm watching it play out in this election cycle when they're talking about, oh, she used this tone here and then she used this tone here. I was like, oh, so code switching. You're talking about the thing that we've had to do to navigate your shit. Yeah. Like, so that's how I feel about how it gets spun around into this thing that's a negative, like saying woke, for example. I was like, when brothers were saying, like, or whoever was saying, black people saying stay woke, it just means like, hey, like, understand your history, like, know the history. And that's what it meant, and to me, from where I sat. And I was like, okay, stay woke. And it was more just like stay woke, brother, like, all right, peace, or whatever. Like, that's how it was used.
It was ours.
And now it's used as a negative connotation towards people who want equity or whatever. Like, it's crazy. I don't know.
That's because we have to accept that even the idea of blackness is created in a white supremacist culture. Even the very idea of how we see ourselves as black is connected to whiteness, right? They don't have this type of duplicitous type of nature of thinking around race in Jamaica. They may have some colorism, challenges, but the idea of blackness is not even ours. And so for me, the way I feel liberated in it is I'm not code switching. In my meeting the other day where I said I was triggered, I saw myself code switching because I was angry. I was like, let's move on to the next agenda item because I do believe that. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? You don't talk like that. what is that, ma'am? Because I was triggered, and it was either that or, first of all, when I said what I said, it wasn't because I didn't understand. It's because I disagree, and I didn't want to do that. And so I just made myself small, right?
Yeah.
Because of the whiteness that was in the room, the white supremacy culture in the room rose to the surface. And so I believe that we need to be in relationship with each other and have these conversations, not as a way to I'm not trying to beat you up. I'm really just trying to examine my shit, right? Yeah. Explore that some alternative perspectives exist, and then together let's transform and be great. Because what I don't want to do is ostracize more black folks because they feel like, well, I'm not black enough. I mean, I have a colleague of mine. I wanted her to join the board, and she says, but I'm not sophisticated enough. What? So what have we done? I'm talking about us, like leaders and the people who call us leaders in the community. What have we done to create a narrative and an energy that we got other nuanced Negroes in the community thinking that they don't belong? I was devastated.
That's how you know what's crazy is that's how, and I didn't, the sentiment wasn't, I felt like I wasn't sophisticated enough. The sentiment for me was, that's not my place. You know, like it was like, nah, I don't really do that. I'm not supposed to be on boards and stuff like that. Like I like to be hand to hand with the kids. Like I got my Fridays, I go to the school, like I'm just tapped in with the kids like that. So, but I also understood that it's important for me to be in that space to help evolve things as well. So it's kind of hard, but also I did receive something like that because we're looking for some spots for a specific board, and I got similar energy. Like, oh, really? Like, yeah. You literally just said the mission statement right there in a text. Like, you belong. You know what I mean? Like, and so I agree. We've done something wrong. And I also feel like you should have differing perspectives. It can't just all be CEOs and people in those positions, because you need to have people from perspectives of different backgrounds, demographics, socioeconomic background, because that'll help check some of the decisions that you're making and bring forth some of the realities that I might be missing.
That part. And we're a vibrant people. We are a brilliant people. And we deserve community. We deserve sacred spaces just for us so we can be. It doesn't mean that we don't have love in our heart for other people across the like that's everybody. Not what everybody. A lady said to me the other day, I hosted an event, a meeting for the city of Tacoma to talk about safety. There's a 2025 safety plan. And this lady came to me and said, I think that B and TBF should be BIPOC. I said, but it's not, it's black.
Black, yeah, specifically.
And she said, well, where do BIPOC people go? I said, well, when you stop calling them BIPOC people and figure out
who is a BIPOC
how they identify. We invented a whole nother race. Then I'm sure that there's belonging for them. And she says, well, if white folks did that, y'all would lynch us. That's what she said. We deserve a sacred space.
I have a take.
We deserve it.
Similar to what you said earlier, I have a take on just black people in general in America. And it's for all the things when you think about Willie Lynch, you think about mass incarceration, you think about Jim Crow, you think about slavery, you think about all these things that have oppressed us, and you see where we're at on the pantheon and how many inventions we've made and how many, who the biggest athletes are and I just feel like despite all of those things, we still have not rose up and tried to overthrow nothing. We haven't tried, we've only created dope and provided positive, and some negative too, but a lot of positive to the American culture, the fabric of American culture. And for us to still be here doing this at this level, despite all of those things, centuries of oppression, I'd be scared of us too, because it's got to be the most powerful beings on earth to be able to put up and withstand with all of that and still be here. And I think we're the most democratized. What's the word? Democratized. We are democracy, because we are the patriots because we've stood up and we still go to war and we still go to love our country. We still do all these things despite centuries and centuries. And now it's an interesting relationship with the country.
Yeah.
I'm not going.
It's painful,
but it's very painful.
It's painful
really think about it.
Yeah, it's very painful. I was telling this sister Michelle, she writes plays for Puget Sound Rebels. So they're putting on a play to celebrate what Seneca Village could have been had they not. It was a black community, thriving community in New York, and they bulldozed it to make Central Park. So she's writing a play to discover what it could have been. And so I was telling her, if Trump wins, I'm actually, when I leave here, I'm getting my kid and going to the passport office because I need to renew my passport. But I was like, I may be up. And she said something, Dave, that like it got me, and I was like, oh. She said, I'm not leaving. My ancestors built this country, and I'm not gonna let them put me out. I was ouch.
Literally.
Now,
literally built the country.
Literally.
And we all understand that. We all know that.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that patriotism is painful. I live in Spanaway because that's where rent was affordable. And just this weekend, coming off of Spanaway Loop in 176, I call it a KKK rally because it was Trump flags, American flags, the other the Confederate flag. None of that is patriotism.
Right.
None of it is. No. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel, oh, thee, my country, 'tis of thee. Right, I didn't feel any of that. I felt like you don't want me here. That's what I felt like. And I felt like fuck you for it because my grandfather built this country. My grandfather fought in World War II. My great-grandfather was a slave who became a sharecropper. We still got land to this day in Mississippi. So it's this duality. The Bible says a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. That's what it feels like. It feels like a lack of instability because on one hand I have this this is my country. I live here. Right. I remember the first time somebody told me to go back to Africa, I was at Lawrence University in Appleton, Wisconsin, walking to Jimmy John's right off campus. And I was like, but I've never been. Why would I go back and I've never been? So it's just this painfulness, but also this passion, and that it makes me want to sink my feet deeper into no, it is the Tacoma Black Fund, and people give me props for being so bold. I don't see it as being bold. I see it as being like, what else am I gonna say? The Tacoma African American, it's the Black Fund.
No, it's the Black Fund, yeah.
10 toes down.
I love it. I think that, to your point about the flags and whatnot, here's my thing because I have a lot of folks that follow, maybe listen to this podcast that are GOP members, and my message to folks on the GOP is, and I'm somewhere in the middle, to be honest, but because I just feel like politics in general hasn't done black people well, no matter what side of the fence you sit on, or else we'd be further along. We've had a lot of time, and not enough has been done at this point, in my opinion. So how much more can I wait? I mean, I gotta wait more anyway. But if your movement has bigots co-signing it, it's probably time that you're on the wrong movement. That's just I don't care what policy. I'm just saying, if bigots and white supremacists are co-signing your movement, then it ain't for me. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Dave.
There's a problem.
I'm sorry, Dave. Give me 1 second. I got a parent real quick.
Yeah.
Go to after school care, honey. Go to after school care.
Say we almost done.
Okay. I texted him, but he was still like.
All good.
I gotta go to after school care. Yes.
Yeah, it'll be real quick. We almost done.
No, you're fine.
But if you got bigots and GOP co-signing your movement, I just feel like take your party back. It might have been that way before, but it's so outward now, and the talking points are going to get worse as we move closer to November. Watch it happen. It happens every time. So anyway, I just feel like what you were just saying, is one, it's true, and two, it's your perspective, so no one can tell you otherwise. So that is what it is.
And you know, I think it's so hard because we're not in authentic and natural relationship with each other, with the other, right? And so, I'm just a real quick story. I tell the story all the time. I got in my Uber with my ballot in my hand, and the lady says, "Oh, that reminds me to vote." At the time, I was working for Fuse Washington, progressive political organization. So I said, "You should check out the Progressive Voters Guide if that's your if that's in line with your values." Mm-hmm. And she was like, "Progressive Voters Guide, progressive?" And she goes, "I don't know what I am. I know I don't want anybody to touch my guns." And I said, "Well, you might not be interested in the Progressive Voters Guide then." And we chuckled, and she goes, "Well, I know that I want my children to be safe in school, so I believe we should have more police officers in school." And I said, "Well, you're definitely not interested in the Progressive Voters Guide." And then I said,
I have a take on everything, but yeah.
And then I said, "What if I told you that I also want my kid to be safe in school, but having more police in school does not keep my kid safe. It puts him more at risk." She turned all
and data.
She turned all the way around and said, "Oh my God, I never thought of it like that before." Yeah. We're not in relationship. We're not talking. There's this whole left and this whole right, and there's this whole thing in the middle that we just ignore.
I'm trying to talk. I'm trying to have discourse. I want to understand why. I want to, instead of all the name calling, like that ain't politics. That's just circus. That's a TV show. That's a reality show.
Exactly. And I have this vision of knocking every door in Tacoma, and I believe out of the mouth the body follows. And maybe as I say it, as TBF prepares to be a 501c4, maybe that'll be the avenue to which it happens. But I want to knock every door because we leave so many doors unlocked. When I was knocking doors on Obama's first campaign in Indiana, we knocked every single door.
Yep.
And I remember it was nighttime, and they were about to start counting, and we were looking at our knock sheets, and we had like 5 or 6 more doors left. Everybody was, I got it, everybody. Yeah. So we left no stone unturned.
Yeah.
We gotta talk. We gotta get back and talk to the people and not be afraid of discourse, not be afraid to disagree. I don't care if you disagree with me. I just want to hear your story.
That's what I keep saying. I put this on Twitter the other day, and I said, I don't like this American culture of like not talking politics. Oh, I don't talk about I don't like to talk about politics. I'm like, why? Like, isn't that the only way that we figure out how we can have discourse around something and practice that? I feel like it's designed to not have discourse, so then we have what we have right now. So, for example, I'll give an example. You have been talking about you're a Christian, right? You're a Christian. A lot of times people will attribute Christianity with the right, and I'm like, okay, great. Like, I love people practicing whatever religion they want to practice. That don't mean that it has any political ideology behind it, or you might like side with one political statement or one stance that one might take very strongly, but overall, like, most people are somewhere in the middle, like, but they've already, you get pushed to either side, and it's like, wait, hold up a minute, I do agree with guns. Like, so for example, when I went down to Texas, I understood why, because ain't no police out in the country. Like, I'll just tell you right now, you on your own, so you better have a gun. Because you run into trouble, ain't no one coming out for you.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to go deep, but you know, I've had a girlfriend who was very pro-birth until she found herself in a situation where she had to make a different call, and she came to me because she knew there would be no "I told you so," right?
Yeah.
But we have a right to change our minds.
Right.
The way life works. Like, if you think the same way you came in here, the same way you go out, you gonna have one hell of a life. We have to be open to the idea that I'm not saying you got to change your mind. I'm just saying be open to the fact that another way exists.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
And if we're in a relationship, you'll hear my story and say, wait a minute, she wants to keep her kids safe too. But she's telling me this isn't going to keep her kids safe. Then the conversation becomes, how do we keep our children safe?
Yep.
that's what democracy is.
Right.
You know, I feel like we're leading more and more and more into. Anyway, I won't get into that.
Yeah, no, you're on the right track. So I mean, we could talk about this forever, but the Tacoma. We'll wrap up on this Tacoma Black Fund.
Yes.
People need to go check it out. It's tell me the Gmail again, and how do people get in touch with you if they want to learn more?
TacomaBlackFund.com and TacomaBlackFund@gmail.com.
Okay.
And I just want to say this. I want to make sure I say this. I'm supporting Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, because she deserves our support. She is the candidate who I'm putting my time, my energy, and my money behind. I don't give a shit what her record is, because I voted for other folks who had worse records and did worse things. And so that's where I'm putting my energy. I want to make sure that I'm clear when I say, even with my criticism, my judgments, my ideas, my assumptions, I'm still checking that box for
I think
Vice
that,
President Kamala Harris.
yeah, well, here's the reasonable answer for me, and I am too. First of all, it's history. We're making history. We're watching history in real time. Second of all, we're watching history in real time for another reason. Of the last three administrations, George Bush, Obama, and Biden, there were 0 cabinet members with criminal charges. In his, there were 7. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, but 7 with criminal charges.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And then we can talk about his charges and just, he's not a good human being. So I have no... I sat down with Dr. Randall Pinkett, the first black winner of The Apprentice, had lunch with him. And he actually went on a tour, a media tour, separating himself in 2016. He's wrote a book called Black Faces in White Places. Oof. And we did a book study here with Dr. Melanie Cunningham. She helped along get him here. And so we sat down with high schoolers and stuff. And this was when the 2016 election was happening. And I sat down with him, had lunch, and was like, hey, man, I need you to tell me, like, you worked for the man. Like, he's like, do you think I'd go around here like distancing myself if he was a good human being? Like, this is someone who worked for him, and he's, you know, he's a business dude. You might not. He does his own thing, whatever. But I have firsthand accounts of this person, and I'm sorry, he's just not a good human being. So I'll be on record saying that. I'm on record every day saying that. This is our podcast. It doesn't have anything to do with left or right. It just has to do with what's a reasonable standard that we have for someone holding office. Yeah,
period.
And I'm sorry, but 7 cabinet members being charged is not who you want running here. I'm sorry.
No, and that just points out that how serious local elections are, and we lose sight of that. I always say Obama was in office for 8 years, and I ask people, how long did he have control of the House? Only 2. Like, we got to do our part. We, you know, and I struggle with it too. I ain't gonna sit here and let somebody pull my voting record. I'd be embarrassed. But we got to do better. My mother always says, when you know better, you do better. So we got to get out there. Local elections really do matter. We got to get out there and vote. TBF is excited and humbled and eager to put money in the hands of black candidates that share in our values. And we're just excited to see history in the making. So I just wanted to make sure I said that.
No, that's dope. I appreciate you doing that. So we have one last segment before you go.
Yes.
It's gonna be quick. Yeah. It's called Hot Take.
Okay.
And so we're gonna ask you I'm gonna ask you a couple questions, and
it's not anything about like Kendrick Lamar or anything like that, because you know I'm old.
I mean,
okay, I'm with it.
There might be some. All right, live concert or blasting music in the car on an open road. I love live music. Something about that collective energy of everybody swaying and singing, and the band. And I sat front row of Jill Scott in Chicago, seeing the sweat drip off her face. Chicago would be crazy.
Yes,
Philly.
I always try to say,
but Chicago would be dope too.
Yeah, she's dope anywhere, but yes, I love live music.
So how about this one, Jill Scott or Jill Scott?
Jill Scott.
Hold on, you didn't even.
What are you saying?
What I was gonna say. Jill Scott or Erykah Badu?
Jill Scott. Jill Scott.
Okay.
Jill Scott. You know, but Erykah Badu live. Have you seen Erykah Badu live?
No, I haven't.
It's an experience. Like, I was not an Erykah Badu fan until I was in Chicago. front row. And she took off, that she had this big afro wig blowing in the wind, and she took it off, and all she had were these long braids and a beat maker.
Ooh.
It was insane.
Oh, I bet she went crazy.
It was insane.
All right, fall or spring?
That's a hard one because this spring rain, I'm not looking forward to it. But I'll say spring because it lets me know summer's coming.
Okay. Coming to America or Raw? Eddie Murphy.
Dave. This is blasphemy. Okay. I'm going to say Harlem Nights. No, I'm just playing. I'm going to say.
Okay.
I'm going to say Raw.
Raw. Okay, Eddie Murphy, Raw. Yeah. I mean,
I used to sneak and listen to that album.
Yeah. Was that 5? All right, I got one more anyway. Let's see. Dessert or dinner?
Dave, I'm a big girl. I like the both of them at the same time. I'll say if my mama's cooking dinner.
Okay, yeah, that's what's up. Well, congratulations, you just made it through through Hot Take. And then again, tell everyone again how they can get in touch with Desiree Wilkins-Finch.
You can hit me up at Tacoma Black Fund at gmail.com and check us out at TacomaBlackFund.com. And you can check me out on any of the social medias with my name.
All right, there you have it. So thank you for coming on. I appreciate the real talk. Like, I think a lot of people are going to get something out of this. Maybe they don't. So. Maybe they get mad. Maybe they don't. Whatever. It don't matter.
I had a great time.
For. So anyway, thank you. And then for the rest of y'all, make sure you tune in next week. We have some more. With that, peace. All right. Good work.